Oi Pops, Ohmylord here, and right now I feel like sharing with you guys some of my closest, and I mean closest, to death's stories. So that's what I'm gonna do, starting with number one, getting my tonsils removed. I know this has probably only happened to me. Maybe 2% of the earth has had this happen to them. That's how rare it might be because I was really little when this happened. So you know how the whole process goes. You feel a tickle in your throat, then a few days later you feel like you shouldn't be eating because your throat hurts so much. And you need to get your tonsils removed because they're getting inflamed and stuff like that. Anyway, that happened to me whenever I was like 4 or 5. And in the process of getting the surgical removal, I got an artery cut. My parents asked the doctors, in quote, "Hey, is she going to be okay?" And in quote, they replied, "Yes, she should heal up just fine." I did not heal up just fine. I was in the room waiting for the machine to come in and to help numb me and stuff like that. They're gonna inject me with something just to help the pain go away because I just went through surgery and stuff like that. And in the process of waiting, my stomach started to hurt, so I told my parents, and like 2 seconds later, I ran to the puke bags, but I was too late. I ended up throwing up blood all over the room. It went from a white room to a meat locker. That is how red it was. It was terrible. I had to get rushed back into surgery because I had lost so much blood, and my dad, thankfully, ended up donating some into me. That's the only time he's ever done that in his life, so that makes me feel special. Anyway, on to number 2, zombie bike wreck. Whenever I say zombie bike wreck, I mean I was a normal person, then I got on a bike wreck, and then I was a zombie. So it ended up being my first bike wreck that this had happened to me. I was a little bit of a stunt biker whenever I was about at the age of 9 or 10. I had to go to Texas with my parents because my dad got a job and we wanted to be closer to him this time. So we went there so we could spend more time with him and stuff, and I learned a lot about biking and stuff like that. I have a giant black bike that is now stored in my garage. I do not use it that much anymore because of this incident. I would make myself go really low to the ground, meaning the wheel go on its side almost, and then I would go straight back up. And some of my friends would be like, "Oh my gosh, you are so cool," until this happened. I was doing that trick and the spoke of my wheel got caught on a rock. I went flying. And then I smashed my head into the dirt. I got a few rocks stuck in my arm. My lip was I can't say that word. Swollen. My lip was really swollen. Got road rash all up my leg. Some of my skin was ripped off of my cheek. If you've ever seen The Walking Dead, I looked like the zombies off of that show. That is how bad it was. I walked into my mom and we couldn't afford going to the hospital because we lived in a camper and we couldn't really pay our bills in general at that time. Don't worry, we're safe now. We moved out of Texas after this had happened. All that stuff went down. She got a few frozen water bottles out of the fridge and I was forced to sleep on the couch inside of the camper for the whole night because I didn't want to get blood everywhere else. But yeah, that happened. So we're moving on to number 3 now. 3 and final. Nearly drowning. Now this one's actually kind of funny. I know it sounds really miserable. It's actually really funny. But this was the same day my brother was born. I was at Hickey Pool with my aunt, and she was catching me off the diving board. Well, she had to go answer a text from one of her friends, and I was going to impress her by jumping off the diving board by myself. I was 7 years old, and that was a very, very deep section of the pool. Like, I couldn't touch it at all. It felt like I was flying. That is how high it was. High it was from the bottom of the pool, I mean. So I jumped in the pool, and the filters were pushing me into the center, and I couldn't swim to the sides. I didn't have enough strength in my arms. And she was trying to answer that text because it was from one of her workers in her job or something like that. I don't really know. And I ended up nearly drowning to death. I couldn't breathe. I was falling underwater, and she was still teaching me how to swim. She was like my swim coach, and I didn't know how to stroke that well or how to swim that well, so I was basically drowning. Water was getting in my lungs. I felt like I was going to throw up. It was terrible, and there was like people staring at me from the side of the pool. And then eventually someone was just like, "Oh my gosh, do you need help?" And I was just like, "I need help. I can't swim to shore." And the lifeguard ended up swimming over to me, and that's whenever my aunt noticed that I was drowning. She swam over to me too, and they decided to have a friendly chat. And by friendly, they looked like they were about to get into a fight. My aunt was just like, "Well, she's my niece. She needs to be saved by me." And the lifeguard was just like, "This is my job, woman, get away from her." And they ended up getting like snappy with each other, and I was gonna die. Eventually he swam off, and my Aunt Ray ended up saving my life, thank goodness. I would not be alive if they had kept rambling on and on. But yeah, those are some of my closest to death stories. If you want to hear more, then comment below in the comment section for whatever reason, because you want to hear more about my endless suffering in the past. I don't think I've came close to dying recently, but I mean, there was one time I nearly lost my boyfriend's dog. I would have like killed myself if I did. Nearly ran off his chain. He like jumped over the fence. It was terrible. But anyway, that's another story. So, bye guys.